Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.
Hello everyone, I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. A staple of Another View is the Another View Roundtable, when intelligent, opinionated, witty, and wonderful people get together to talk about the impact of current events on the Black community. For 9 years, Roger Chesley, Bill Thomas, Will LaVeist, and Carol Pretlow graced the airwaves. And guess what? They're back. Get ready for some awesome conversation with our Throwback Thursday Another View Roundtable. That's coming up next on Another View, right after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Let me tell you right from the beginning that we are having phone problems with our broadcast today. So if you want to send a message or ask a question, we're going to have to ask you to please go to Facebook and send it through Messenger, or leave us a message on our Facebook page, and Lisa will be busy trying to keep up with all of the responses. So unfortunately, we cannot accept phone calls today. It is something that happened yesterday, I guess, with the phone lines, and they're still working on it. So please go to social media, go to our Facebook page, or send us a message through Messenger, and we will try to respond. Also want to let you know about a couple things happening in the community before we get started with our Throwback Thursday Roundtable, and they've already started, I can tell y'all now. Don't forget about the James E. Newby Jr. Foundation Community Harvest Farmers Market. Now, Dr. Newby told you about this last time he was on. It is Saturday, July the 15th, so it's this Saturday from 9 a.m. until noon. It's at the Scope Arena parking lot, which is at the corner of Brambleton and St. Paul's in Norfolk. And there's going to be reduced prices on fresh vegetables from local farmers. There are cooking demonstrations. There are healthy eating promotions. There's a free Zumba class. There are going to be all kinds of activities going on, and it is free to come. If you have questions, you can call 757-619-5268. That's 757-619-5268. The other thing I want to tell you about is the Let Freedom Ring Foundation. They are presenting the Intro to Genealogy Workshop. That's also this Saturday. It is from 10 until 12:30 at First Baptist Church on Scotland Street in Williamsburg. And you may recall our Juneteenth show when Dr. Jawan Johnson of William and Mary was our guest, and he talked to us about the history of Juneteenth. Well, he's going to do the basics of tracing your family tree. And so this is free. It is open to everyone. They encourage you to bring a laptop if you have one, as well as a brown bag lunch. And again, that is from 10 until 12:30 this Saturday, July the 15th at First Baptist Church, Scotland Street in Williamsburg. And finally, for you jazz lovers out there, Virginia is for Lovers Genius Jazz Festival, featuring Different Perspective, Black Hoodie, Dwayne Smith Quartet, Virginia Experiment, our very own Jay Sennett Trio, Michael Jamil and Friends, and Rod Jazz. They're also going to be poetry, live art, comedy. It's all happening on Saturday, the 22nd of July from 3 until 10 p.m. at Hub 757 in Suffolk. And if you want to know more information about that, you go to vageniusjazzfest.com. So lots and lots of things happening in Hampton Roads this weekend and next weekend and all summer long. So that is fantastic. So guess what, y'all? It's a reunion here at Another View. I'm so excited to spend some time with some old friends. We've invited back the original Another View roundtable pundits to chop it up about what's been happening in our community and in the world today. He's a contributing columnist to the Virginian Mercury, freelance writer, and former columnist at the Virginian Pilot. Welcome back, Roger Chesley.
Hey, I'm glad to be one of the original gangsters you invited back.
Exactly. The OG is in the house. He's still a community activist and just as ornery as ever, but we love him anyway. Our community activist, Mr. Bill Thomas. How are you, Bill?
Life is beautiful.
That is wonderful.
Life.
You know, Bill, you are one of the ones where people actually send us letters saying, when are we going to bring Bill Thomas back? So here we are.
You don't want conservatives on. You want people that following in the line of the same old, same old.
See, here you go, getting started already.
Same old, same old.
Let me finish introducing the panel. Do you mind?
Absolutely.
She is the longest running pundit on Another View, political science professor Carol Pretlow from Norfolk State University. Hey, Carol.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, wonderful.
Good. Pull your headset right up on top of your head there.
There
you go.
There I go.
Carol joins us with the Women's Roundtable, but Carol has been here from the very beginning, so we appreciate you. Absolutely. And joining us by, I guess, Zoom now. It used to be phone, but by Zoom is communications and media consultant, professor, author, and former Metro columnist with the Daily Press, Mr. Will LaVeist. Hello, Will.
Barbara, it's great to hear from you. I miss you. I miss Lisa. I miss Carol.
Thanks.
Roger and Bill.
Oh, not so much.
Not so much, huh?
Will, we feel the same way about you, Bill and I.
So, you know what? People have already started on Facebook. We got a message from Mary Alice. She says, looking forward to a rollicking hour of discussion. Thank you for bringing together the original roundtable. Y'all made an impression over those 9 years that you were on the air. And then you left me. But that's another story. Anyway, let's get started. So, June 29th of this year, the Supreme Court ended race-conscious admission programs at colleges and universities across the country, meaning race can no longer be considered in college admissions. The 6-justice supermajority invalidated admissions programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. So, I'm going to start with your original response to the news. Roger.
I think it was expected because we knew the makeup of the court. We knew it was going to be a 6-3 decision. A lot of the vitriol, I think, was dumped on Clarence Thomas because he was such a beneficiary of affirmative action over the years. And because he was a conservative black man nominated to replace the legend Thurgood Marshall, I think it hurt more. But not surprising, really.
Not surprising at all. Mm-hmm. What about you, Bill?
I think it's a good thing. I think that we as black people, as black Americans, as concerned citizens that are looking for a holistic society, no different than what we always had. Martin Luther King never asked for nothing. He all asked for an opportunity. We have plenty of opportunities in our own community. We don't have to sit next to a white person to be smart. We don't have to sit next to a white person to be advantaged. We are advantaged. We are the originals. We were come from Mother Africa. And what we need to do, we have plenty of resources in our communities. Just take advantages of opportunities. This thing here, if it was going to happen, it happened with Baki years ago. It was inevitable. So let's just take what we have, exhort our own power, and take command of our communities so all of our people can be successful in our own institutions.
Okay, and we're going to come back about those own institutions. Carol, what was your reaction?
I have a heart attack. I'm actually agreeing with him. Except that as we look at taking advantage of our own opportunities in our own communities from the perspective of universities, we are still underfunded. HBCUs are underfunded. We are struggling. And so while I'm not saying give up on the other institutions, I am saying that society at large has not been as supportive of us as it could have been.
Okay, and Will, your real first reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah, I agree with the rest of the panel on that. I wasn't shocked at
Mm-hmm.
all. I mean, it was what we expected. But I think that what's being lost here is that affirmative action wasn't put in place for people who are unqualified to have opportunities. Affirmative action
Mm-hmm.
was put in place because previously Black people, Indigenous people who were qualified were being locked out. So when you say Clarence Thomas benefited from affirmative action, he benefited because he was qualified to get in
Mm-hmm.
to Harvard or Yale, or I'm forgetting exactly where he went.
He went to Yale
But
Law
prior
and
to that,
Holy Cross College.
yeah, prior to that, he would have been prevented from having the opportunity to compete on an equal playing field. So that's what I see as being sort of lost in here. There's this assumption that affirmative action is opening up opportunities for people who otherwise would not have been able to succeed. It was put in place because people were qualified and were being deliberately locked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Carol.
And another thing is, once you get into those institutions, you have to do the same work everybody else does to stay there. And I'm talking from personal experience. I was affirmative action getting into American University, but once I got there, I was still expected to satisfy the requirements, go to the classes, do the work. So it's not like
It's not a free ride.
Free ride. No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, and sadly, it's always I look at this kind of in a wry sense. I mean, we're talking about a people who have been beaten down for 400 years in this country, and affirmative action really only existed for roughly 60 years. It had been eaten away already over the years, as you mentioned in Bakke and other cases over the last few decades. And it's just amazing to me how, we really didn't get much of literal freedom until the Civil Rights, Voting Rights Acts took place in the mid-'60s. Mm-hmm. And even when different laws, different Supreme Court rulings take place, the white majority often has fought them, such as in oh boy, I'm blanking on the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education. So, I mean, we're talking about a relative blip that we actually had a chance to take advantage of affirmative action, and even that's been taken away. But it's what we've come to expect as a people in this nation.
Bill?
Oh, we always expected it. My sister and sister-in-law went to Harvard and MIT. They graduated number 1 or 2 in their high school classes. We all went to the very best universities. My children went to the very best universities on character, on credentials, on being able to prove to themselves, not to the white man, and I like white folks, it's not about that, but we got to prove it to ourselves that we are what we are. And we can gravitate to where we need to go. We have Howard University, we have Hampton University, we have Norfolk State, and these are staples in our community.
Well, you know what, and to that point, and Will, I want to come to you on this first, because one of the things that has caused me pause is the reaction that I have heard from some African Americans that, quote, now we're going to be relegated to HBCUs. Now, 4 of the 5 of us
That's our problem.
out of this room are all graduates of HBCUs. Will, I want you to react to that first, because it's disturbing to me.
Well, it's not only disturbing, it's absolutely silly and ignorant, and probably coming from people who have no experience with HBCUs at all. I mean, it reminds me of some of the people who said, well, you shouldn't go to an HBCU because that's not the real world. You should go to a PWI so you can be around white people. And then you go to a PWI and everybody in the cafeteria is all sitting in their all respective areas, not mingling at all. So it's really just absolutely ignorant and silly. And like Carol said, we all study from the same books. I went to the Lincoln University, first HBCU, and I now have a master's from the University of Arizona, where I was able to compete on an equal playing field. I have a doctorate right there from Old Dominion University. Old Dominion is not giving away doctorates at all.
Some say that.
Started at Lincoln. They're not handing them out. So I started at Lincoln University, which, by the way, is where Thurgood Marshall started in his undergrad experience. He's an alum of the Lincoln University up in Pennsylvania. So it's just absolutely ignorant when people say things like that. And again, to Carol's point, there are studies coming out now showing that Black students at Harvard and Yale actually have higher graduation, higher success rates based on their numbers. Again, affirmative action wasn't giving somebody a shot who didn't deserve it. Affirmative action was about giving people an opportunity who actually were qualified to compete, giving them an opportunity that previously they were being locked out. So I think your listeners really need to understand that and stop. We need to, as a people, also stop falling for this okie doke that somehow HBCUs or our institutions are inferior. Not all of the institutions are the same, and some schools have better programs than others. So if you're a Black student, you want to go to MIT because of what you want to study there, that's the elite place to go, then you should have the opportunity to go there. You're qualified.
Roger.
I went to a mostly white, all-boys Catholic high school. And I know at least one of my priest teachers was disappointed that I went to Howard University. And like it was less than. And I think I almost felt the same way when I first entered. Maybe I could have gone somewhere else. I went to a school, the journalism classmates that I had when I was at Howard, one was Isabel Wilkerson, later Pulitzer Prize winner, prize-winning author for Caste and for The Warmth of Other Suns. One was Monique Greenwood, later became the editor-in-chief of Essence magazine and is an entrepreneur. I've had others who were top-flight photographers that I worked with. All of us were either in the school at the same time or we worked at the school newspaper. And so there's got to be something to be said for these incubators that help create so many leaders. Yeah, we had something going in, but I think we also challenged each other when we were in school. And there was a certain nurturing that took place at HBCUs, and maybe this helps us focus on that yet again.
Go ahead, Carol.
You mentioned the nurturing, and I hate to keep mentioning myself, but I do mention the fact that I flunked algebra 9 consecutive times. But guess what? It was a professor at Norfolk State who heard my questions in class and built on that and said, look, maybe economics is better. Let's try that. Let me talk to Fisk about this. Let's see. If it had not been for that professor and that support, then I might still be taking algebra.
So the problem that I see, and I continue to see, and Roger's right on point, is the fact that I have never heard in my family connections anything negative about HBCUs. We had our parents, they went to Texas Southern, Grambling, Southern, FAMU, and Howard. And so we were always taught that those were the best. What our relatives always taught us, if you really want to be successful, an HBCU at those statures will not let you fail. Will not let you fail. And just Roger, those names, for example, the people as distinguished peoples from Howard. We have the same at Hampton. We have same at Norfolk State and others. We just refuse our own methods, and we get distracted by fools and idiots that are out there talking crazy. We were always taught to ignore it. We're always taught we just have permanent interests. Permanent interests, which are families, our life, our church, the people that we loved, and to leave the nonsense alone. Don't even bring it up. To even bring it up today, to me, is insulting, because I will not even bless it by even repeating it out of my lips, because what HBCU done is our families.
So do you guys think that with the Supreme Court ruling that in essence, this will also be a boon to HBCUs?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's going to.
I agree.
It's going to, and I'll just take it. I'll let Will go in a minute. But it's going to take that little doubt we used to have, that Roger said, had a little doubt. Now that's going to be dissipated. We are what we are. We've done what we got to do. And it's not dependent on somebody outside of our community, outside of our race. Absolutely, we should embellish and grab everything America is. And that's not a problem with that. But we shouldn't do it by diminishing ourselves.
Go ahead, Will.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a boon for HBCUs as people are realizing, for example, our Madam Vice President, Kamala Harris, HBCU grad.
Howard.
There you go.
Well, I reluctantly said that, but
no, but there we go.
It is what it is.
There we go.
And to quickly to piggyback off what Roger was saying about many of the pioneering Black journalists that came out of Howard. Well, Jay Harris, one of the pioneering executives in media. Executives of San Jose Mercury News, Lincoln University grad. He came out of there. So obviously he was prepared. And I think another positive that's going to come out of this that's already begun is that there are other court cases looking at other types of disadvantages or privileges that are being given to other communities, such as legacies, being able to go to Harvard and so forth. The several people who are in these Ivy League schools simply because their parents went, or because they're related to high donors. They people who are otherwise unqualified. No one speaks about that. So I think that we're in an era now where we need to be looking at all of the situations that tend to advantage people and uphold white supremacy and the privileges that people have benefited from, and dismantle all of them. If you really want to be serious about an equal playing field, then do that as well, because I know all of us have no problems competing. Give us an equal opportunity to compete.
Well, and that's the point. Give us the opportunity. Go ahead.
And my point is, and following up on that, Will, is here's the problem. There won't be the same attack on dismantling those other types of privileges.
Right.
There, and the fact that the Supreme Court ruling did a carve out for military academies. Okay, Black people. Okay, brown people. We're not going to disadvantage you because you might be putting your life on the line for us. We're going to let you keep on doing that.
But you know what? And to that point, Roger, the other group that will still probably have advantage are the athletes,
exactly,
versus the scholar.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't mean that an athlete can't be a scholar. That's not what I'm saying. But the recruitment of all of that is also an issue. Okay, so last word on this is that talk show. Go ahead.
Say one other thing.
Go ahead.
What you were talking about, your issues. Charles Barkley had a will, and a part in his will. I think it was Roger, was $6 million for Auburn University athletes. Here is what this has done. He's changed his will. He said it's going to only go to Black athletes. So we have to get through these distractions. We have to get rid of them. We have to talk about, you can't do anything with Harvard. Harvard is private. They can give money out to anybody in any kind of way they want to. And your government can't do anything about it. So let's get that nonsense out of the way. So the government, the Supreme Court, can't do anything to Harvard or Yale or Princeton. Because they are private schools.
Well, they do have to follow the Constitution.
Yeah.
No. They can do selecting people to attend their schools. They can set their own. Now, they can't obviously discriminate. But just like the agents told us, we don't know what we're doing. It was insulting for me to hear those people talk about us the way they did. They said they qualified and we're not qualified. But my point is, and I don't want to get involved in distractions. I refuse to do that anymore. We got our own. Let's take advantage of it. And let's deal with what we got to deal with ourselves.
Will, you want to say the last word?
Yeah, just one quick irony also here is that this case involved an Asian American saying that they were discriminated against. And the irony that the civil rights movement and the attention and the suffering and the sacrifice that went on during the civil rights movement brought to the height of attention what led to the Immigration and the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which opened up an opportunity for many other different immigrants who had means, who were of families in their countries of origin, that could get over here by plane and have an opportunity to succeed in the United States. So it's ironic that now you have another a group of ethnic group considered maybe minority saying that they're being discriminated against in this. And again, forgetting that the whole point of this was to give people opportunities who were qualified and locked out. That's the irony in it.
That is ironic. You're absolutely right. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about current events with some of our favorite Another View Roundtable pundits, columnist and freelance writer Roger Chesley, community activist Bill Thomas, NSU political science professor Carol Pretlow, and communications and media consultant professor and author Will LaVeist. Again, unfortunately, our phone lines are down, so if you'd like to reach us, please reach out on social media at Facebook, our Facebook page, or send Lisa a note on Messenger. Ray, actually, this will take us into our next conversation, I think. So Ray from Virginia Beach writes, Bill Thomas tells it like it is. Welcome back, Bill. I like Bill's view that missing fathers in the household are one of society's biggest problems. The problem permeates in all races. Not quite sure how that has to do with affirmative action, but our next topic we're going to be talking about is about the violence that's been happening, not just in the Black community, but violence across the country. So we are now, 2023 is on track to be the deadliest year for mass shootings in this country. There have been more than 300, I think we're up to 350 so far. And the mass murder rate is up also. Almost 24 people have died, excluding the shooters, while mass shootings were going on. The Gun Violence Archive defines mass shootings as 4 or more people, excluding the shooter having been shot. Mass murders are defined as 4 or more died from gunshots, excluding the shooter. So I'm curious, has all of the violence, particularly in public places, made you all change the way that you're living right now? In other words, you say, I'm not going to go to that festival, or I'm not going to do such and such, Roger?
I'm not doing anything differently. Now, I will say that there are certain, and I'm not really in the age group anymore. I mean, I don't go to certain concerts and certain parties because it seems like too many events where stupidity breaks out because somebody didn't like the way somebody talked to them or stepped on his shoe or what have you. We had a Virginian pilot reporter who got killed coming out of a club, and it's apparently linked to something stupid where somebody had a spilled drink, or that was according to former Chief Boone when that happened. So, yeah, I wouldn't do stuff like that. But, I mean, mass shootings, unfortunately, can happen anytime because there's too easy an access to guns, and there's too many people who want to do something crazy with them when they're given the opportunity.
Yeah. What about you, Will? Have you changed anything?
Well, I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York, so my head stays on a swivel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of doing things differently, because I'm sitting here in Philadelphia, where is one of the areas where there's been a lot of violence. And I just think that it's just way too many illegal guns available to people. Mm-hmm. And culturally, we just are too quick to resolve a dispute or some kind of issue, or think that using a gun is what's going to put an end to whatever pain or whatever beef you think that you have. It's just way too much. And we need policies that are going to address the legal guns out there, because one of the things, when I was in Virginia and I was a columnist, I don't mind saying this on the air, that after I've got several comments said to me, calling me the N-word, all these kinds of things as a columnist, I registered and was legally concealed carry in Virginia when I was working as a columnist for the Daily Press. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As the first Black Metro columnist and I'm getting all of these, people, unlike having all these fans that Bill Thomas has, I had a whole lot of enemies that didn't like what I was saying. So I was concealed carry. But if anybody who's listening and has gone through the proper training and all that, you realize, geez, I'm so much more at risk if I use this gun from lawsuits, from other issues, if I'm traveling from a different state and I forget to put my gun away properly. I'm so much more at risk. It almost doesn't make sense for me to even carry a gun.
Wow.
So when you see these things out here, it's about illegal guns, criminals, people who really don't care about the risks and don't have anything to lose. And I think that that's really what is the greatest problem, is just too much access to illegal guns is just flowing, and now untraceable guns.
Yeah, because
that's
what
we need to coming out.
And before Bill Thomas bust, let me hear from Carol, because I know you and Will getting ready to go to it. Do you do anything different, Carol, or what do you think?
Well, I have started doing something that I didn't do before, whether it was a mass rally or a music festival or a parade. I was there, front row center. But now I'm more concerned and I'm more careful. So if things are after 7 o'clock at night, I'm pretty much not going to be there. I'm going to be at home.
At home. Yeah. Mr. Thomas.
First of all, the statistics that you just read aren't accurate. If you go back in the 80s and 90s, Hazel Epney, who was a prolific writer from Howard, and she writes for the national press, black press, she wrote a story, Enough to Fill a City. And basically what she said, over the last 20 years, over 329,000 African Americans have died from their own demise, from death, unnecessary gunshots, poisons, stabbings, whatever else. The statistics back in those days, when Richmond was one of the leading cities of death in America, and Chicago and New York, they were up to 4,000 and 5,000. I mean, it has gone down considerably. But to get to the point that the gentleman called me about, it's simply, in my estimation, the lack of black fathers and marriages. We don't have the family structure and the religious base that we used to have, when we used to know right from wrong. Government can't solve that problem. When these children hate their mothers and despise their daddies and don't have any, and that's not all of them. I have 3 black children, 2 black men, big, tall guys. So they were taught rights and responsibilities. They saw their dad and mom talk to each other every night and give them instructions, and their grandparents and their everybody bringing that back in, where church meant something, just not by going, but hearing every Sunday, God loves you. Jesus loves all the children, black and white, doesn't matter. We were taught not to be racist, and we can't get that out of our genes, because that's the way we were taught. Jesus loves you. He loves all the people. But right now, we have a group of people, black and white, but I'm talking about black people. I'm not going to go through all these distractions. It is sick, where we have 4- and 5-year-old children being shot. And we have second graders doing the shootings. Where are their parents? High on marijuana, not taking care of their children. And I'm not just trying to be that. We're all sinners. I understand that. But we're not to that degree where we sacrifice our blood and see our children's blood being washed down by fire departments down to street holes because we're shooting each other. Like the young lady from the Virginia Pilot. Somebody spilled a drink and shot that young lady. What kind of household was that person brought from? What kind of religion did it? I don't care if you're Muslim, Jewish, Baptist, it doesn't matter. We were taught, and all of y'all know this, that there was a right and there was a wrong. And also in our household, there was an enforcer. Somebody enforced right and wrong. And now we don't have that. We accept everything, blame everybody, but to look in the mirror and look in the mirror of some of these folks that aren't raising their children right, and they're creating all this havoc. We can't have good, safe neighborhoods. We can't have safe events. We can't have safe schools. We don't have anything because basic rights and responsibilities have been tarnished and omitted. So until we say, and I'll say this to my God, and I'm not no great Christian, but I do know the principles of it. Do no harm to nobody else. Leave other people alone. And do not kill, do not steal, do not do all these things. Be kind. Thank you, Roger. Be kind to our black women that are bringing these children in the world. Show them some respect. Show them some love. Show these knuckleheaded kids who've never seen it. And it's not their fault, but they need to know that somebody loves them. Lastly, Roger, when I was in the city, and I lived in one of the worst neighborhoods in Norfolk, I won't go there because they're changing. They're trying to change. They did everything they could to help me. There was one kid who was the worst kid in the neighborhood, terrible kid, in between Church Street and Llewellyn. And he was a great basketball player. But I told him, son, you just set that child's hair on fire. Little girl, you got to go. You can't be around me. You can't be around my children. But I'll tell you what, son, I love you. I love you more than life itself. But I love you, but we got to find a different thing for you. Mm-hmm. His drug dealer father called me up and said, what in the world did you say to my son? He has gone crazy. Because he said the first time in his life, somebody told him that they loved him. Loved him. And that kid turned his life around himself, not by me. It just so happened I said the words and I was in the spot to do that. So our kids are out there. They're the new analysts, the engineers, the people all over this. And the issue with Roger, I know I'm going on too much, Vice President Harris is going to be the President of the United States. We should be celebrating that. Why try to put her down and say, well, that and that and that? I'm proud she's from Howard University. I am very proud of that. And I respect Howard for what they've done with their legacies to keep it up. So at the end of the day, we got to get back to God. We got to start raising our children. And black men, you got to start respecting and loving our black women. You got to do that.
Okay. Hang on, Will. We'll come to you next.
I have a 33-year-old son in Atlanta, a 31-year-old daughter outside Boston, and a 30-year-old daughter in Brooklyn. And not so much worried about me. I worry about what they deal with when they're not at home. I worry about what they see on the street, what they encounter. There was a story I just read a few days ago, and I'll try to find it, but a child got shot in a car because somebody blew the horn at the mama when she didn't leave right away when the light turned green. She was looking at her phone. She then left, but that wasn't good enough for the person behind her, and he shot twice into the car, striking the child. Fortunately, the child survived, but what type of craziness are we that minor disputes or minor infractions become possibly murder cases?
Exactly. Will?
Yeah, I agree with the sentiments that have been shared about people's behavior, right? But I tell you again, there are way too many guns available, and legal guns available for people to use. Anybody who has had firearm training, like I shared earlier, the experience of having firearm training teaches you, hey, I don't even know. I hope I never have to use this thing, because there's so much repercussions that comes behind it you wouldn't believe. So when you're hearing somebody is so quickly pulling out a gun and pulling the trigger, that's not somebody who has experienced the training that I experienced. That's not somebody who likely even has a legal gun, right? That's somebody who's just emotionally unintelligent, just flying off on the handle and feels like they have nothing to lose. And we need to reduce the number of guns that are out there, because that will reduce the opportunities for these things to happen. All the things that Bill's talking about, fathers being in a house, all of those things are relevant. But we're talking about gun violence. If these people have all these dysfunctional issues and they don't have a gun in their hand, then people are not going to be shot by stray bullets.
Right.
Well, Bill, you got to admit, you got to point there.
No. I won't admit that, because that's not the problem. Okay. The problem is we don't have enough fathers in our homes. That is the problem, who would raise their kids. We were taught not to only shoot an animal, rabbits and bunnies. We were taught not to shoot humans. We'd have to be taught that, because it was emanated out of our households. I think the story, I think it's in Philadelphia, where the woman was standing in line to pick up a dinner, and her son was out in the car, and then some guy started arguing with her in the store. She gets on her phone, calls her 14-year-old son who's sitting out in the car, and he comes in to see what mom's want, and she said, bring the gun. And he brought the gun, and he shot the person. In, I think it was store in Philadelphia. The mother told him to shoot him. And then they walked outside, and she said, finish him off. That is the problem. It's parenting. Now, you can have all the guns and all the knives and all the dynamite and all the everything in the world, but if the core issue in America, in my judgment, and I could be perfectly 100% wrong, there are too many guns, Roger. It's not a problem, and people aren't trained to use them. But those aren't the idiots that are out here taking lives, and mothers are ordering their children to commit assassinations. And at first, the court let her off with self-defense.
So how do, then, if that's the case, then what do we do? How do we start to help our community make those changes so that the household is stronger, so that we can mentor others, or whatever is necessary in order to change that mindset? Roger, you got any ideas?
It has to be multi-pronged, and it's difficult because we have to build families. We have to tell people to love each other.
Amen.
And not every insult needs to be answered.
Exactly.
As Will knows, I've gotten my share as a columnist,
Right.
and
I've got my share as a talk show host.
All of y'all have, yes. Probably you.
And so not every slight needs to be answered. Not everything is the end of the world. So that's one thing. We do need better laws so that people who shouldn't have guns, are prevented from it. I know Delegate Hayes, I had talked to him for a column I did earlier this year. He tried to get a 72-hour waiting period after the Walmart shooting where 6 people were killed and a coworker. The coworker had bought the gun that day that he used to go on his killing spree. So, and it didn't get far in the legislature because of the way Republicans are mostly pro-gun, Democrats are mostly pro-gun control. And so you have these issues. But you have to do things in a holistic way, in a wide-ranging way. And if it were easy, it would already have been done. And that's part of the issue, too.
So, well, it's part of the issue also, though, that particularly in the Black community, the nation pays attention to mass shootings because it's multiple people. But the fact of the matter is, within our community, there are shootings every single day.
Yes.
Well, yeah. And I think that because in our communities, there are certain conditions that exist, and mental health people will tell you this, psychologists will tell you this. If you are in a state of fight or flight, out of stress constantly, right, that is going to bring about certain type of reactions when a situation happens, when an encounter happens. So what Roger's talking about, not everything has to be answered. But if you are under a state of stress, right, you're not always able to use your better judgment in terms of how you respond to a slight. So he's correct that it's multi-pronged. And one of those prongs in there is that you got to eliminate people having the access to use this destructive weapon. When Bill talks about how things were prior to the 60s and the 50s and something like that, you need to also look at what was the level of access of guns in the 1950s compared to 2023. People were under stress in those days too. And I would subject to you that if they had the kind of access that we see now, then you would have been seeing more killings going on then too.
Go ahead,
so it's multi-pronged.
I disagree with that. In our household, I can only go by my experiences in my neighborhood. We had guns laying out all over in our house to clean them and to do things with them. We were trained properly because our fathers were coming out of the World War II and the Korean War and the Vietnam War, so they would have access to guns and they were laid out. I think what the best thing that I heard today from Mr. Roger was the fact that he said he was concerned about his daughters. And I think that is what we have to do, what they're facing and what they have to face. There's a concern that came out of that. That is what we need to adjust our vision on. Not the too many guns, but not the issue of access, not the people smoking this marijuana and everything and cracked out of their minds, and that's on both sides. more than the other. And how can you make a good sound judgment and you're a crackhead or you're overdosing with marijuana? That's just a fact. You have to be or drunk. It doesn't matter. If you have those things, variables in your life, and then you have no relationship in your house, you have no relationship with your children, you have no relationship with God or Jesus or Moses or whoever you want to be, Gandhi, it doesn't matter, or Martin Luther King. You have no relationship with goodness, with soundness, and then you're going to find everything else to blame. Sure, what Delegate Hayes was trying to do was good. There should be a month waiting period as far as I'm concerned, so you can check these people out. I have no issues with that. But then you need to go into the house, especially the young lady, unfortunate thing in Newport News, whose son came to school with a gun at the 2nd or 3rd grade and shot the teacher.
First grade.
First grade.
So Barbara,
Yeah.
so Barbara.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead, Will. Hang on. Go ahead,
Bill
Will.
is doing what he usually does.
Man, don't stereotype me. I didn't come here to be insulted.
Okay.
No,
Wait a
I'll let
minute,
you.
wait a
no,
minute, wait a minute.
Then take
Let
my
me
name out
finish
of
my
it. Then
thought.
take my name out of it.
All right, hold on.
Let me finish my.
Let
Let me
him
finish
finish
my
his
thought.
thought.
I'll let you finish your thought.
Let
Let me finish my thought. Don't be afraid of
I'm
what I'm
not
about
afraid.
to say.
I'm not afraid of
Until-
Okay,
anything.
gentlemen.
He started
Thank you.
off. He said to you. He said, based on my experience. So he's using his sample size, and then he's extrapolating that out to every other possible scenario going on out there in our community. And everybody did not have and does not have the type of support and the type of environment that you had, Bill. So you just said, our parents, we were trained. We had guns in front of us and we were trained in how to use the gun and how destructive the gun could be. I just finished saying that anybody that is trained and does understand that has a total respect for that gun, and that what we're dealing with are people out in the community who do not have the kinds of experiences necessarily, that narrow experience that Bill Thomas had. And that's who we're also accounting for. We're out here living in a pluralistic society, a lot of different types of people. You can't just box everybody into your own little experience and then say, this is how everybody should behave.
Let me respond.
Okay.
Let me respond.
All right, real quick.
And then you can, please. Yeah,
Go ahead, Carol.
Go ahead, Carol.
We only have 6 minutes left. So.
I think all of you made very good points. Now, how do we get our legislators to pass legislation that will actually address the practical effects and the practical implications of this, and to start not with woulda, coulda, shoulda, but right here, right now, get something done?
I can tell you. We were taught in church from one ever. You may, and if that's not your experience, that's okay.
Yeah.
Go
Not to kill anybody. Period. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt love people. And if that's a little experience, then that's our problem, in my judgment. And it's not a little experience, because I dragged my behind down in an inner city and lived there 10 years and actually experienced what was going on, not unlike some of my friends that are also saying that this is dismissive. But I just think we got to have values built in our communities, through our churches, through the NAACP, through our sororities, through our fraternities, and we must control it ourselves to make our communities better. Thank you.
Okay, so last 4 minutes. Last 4 minutes. I do want to hear from you all. Bring people up to speed on what you've been doing. Will, let me start with you. Each of you gets a minute, okay? Bring us up to speed on what you've been doing lately.
Hey, married for a year now.
Congratulations.
You all got to see her and spend time with her. Living in Philadelphia, still vice president of a nonprofit Mennonite Mission Network. I mentioned I received my doctorate from ODU since then, 2019, and consulting, working on turning my dissertation into a book. Still working on other movie projects and doing multiple things. So, going to be joining the board of trustees of the Lincoln University of Pennsylvania.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Beginning in the fall.
That's fantastic.
I got to rep my HBCU.
There you go. Thank you so much, Mr. Will LaVeist. You know we will have you back. Roger, what you been up to?
So since I took the buyout from the Virginian pilot in the latter part of 2018, I have been writing a mostly weekly column for the Virginia Mercury. And it mostly deals with state issues, but a variety of things: government, crime, and also off the cuff things every now and again. I recently did a column about when should you take Social Security, especially if you're a black man, because we die before a lot of other people do. Doing some volunteering, working on a book project that I'm helping an author just review some of the things that he has, and it's been quite a history lesson for me. And just trying to figure out this stage in my life now. And Michelle has retired, so we're doing all sorts of things around the house.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's good. It's good.
Good stuff. That's Roger Chesley. You will come back on occasion too, right?
Only if you double my salary.
There we go. I can do that. Mr. Thomas, what you been up to?
Really, truly, I've been going through some things about what we need to do, as Carolyn had mentioned, and I just think we need to be more communicative with each other. We need to love one another. We need to tell people, I appreciate you, and Carolyn, I appreciate our experience. It's been something that has helped me mature and become a better man. And Roger, the same thing. I think that we should do the kinds of things. I'm following you in the Mercury and press. You're doing a good job there, and I have grandchildren now. They're all doing well, and I got to wrap it up. But the same thing. But it's just been good. I'm going to love everybody. I'm not going to get distracted. I'm going to try to save as many lives, including myself, and find somebody I can give my Social Security to because I'm still single.
Okay, ladies, Bill is still out there looking. Absolutely. Carol, what you been up to?
Nothing. For the first time since I've been in Norfolk State, I haven't planned anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going minute by minute. I'll start reading something and put it down and might not see it till another week, but, just doing nothing.
Just doing. Are you still teaching? Going to be teaching next year?
But this gives me time to think about conversations that I've had. And, that's the point. Let me see if I can incorporate that next time in the lecture. But nothing really.
Well, I have to tell you guys, I, first of all, appreciate you being back here. I missed you. And so we'll have to do this every now and then and pull everybody together. So thanks so much, Will, too. And congratulations on the marriage and on the becoming a board member of the Lincoln University. Is that the name of that school? I thought it was Lincoln University.
I ain't got nothing to say.
We always got to talk about white people.
Is there
That's
a
right. That's right.
No, it's not.
Yes.
The Ohio State, the Lincoln.
I know. Did you add the "the" or is it really
white
the?
Folks told them to do it.
Let me
That's what we
answer.
call it. There's more than one Lincoln University. We're the first and the first HBCU.
I see.
I
see. Okay.
Hampton would want to tell you different.
I got you. I got you.
We're private, but we don't do anything.
Oh, gosh. Well, audience, I hope that you've enjoyed today's show. And if you did, please share it with a friend or a family member. Go to anotherviewradio.org and download the podcast. And please also sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. And don't forget about the Community Harvest Farmers Market. It is this Saturday, July the 15th, from 9 until noon at the Scope Arena parking lot. That's at the corner of Brambleton and St. Paul's Boulevard in Norfolk. Come out and meet our favorite cardiologist, Dr. Keith Newby. Get your fresh vegetables, cooking demonstrations, and so much more. You can call 757-619-5268 for more information. And also, the genealogy workshop is happening at First Baptist Church in Williamsburg on this Saturday from 10 a.m. until 12:30. It's free, so go on over if you want to learn about genealogy. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer. And if the phones had been working, Dr. Barry Graham would have answered them. I'm Barbara Hamley. Thanks so much for listening. And let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.